Hello and welcome, my friend. I am Aidan from Terranash, a space where stories gently carry you toward peace and rest. Before we begin tonight's tale, take a moment to ease yourself into a position that feels truly comfortable. Maybe you're nestled under the weight of soft blankets or reclining in your favorite chair, letting the world grow quiet around you. Wherever you are, this time is just for you. Let's begin to let go of the day, breath by breath. Breathe in slowly, letting the air gradually fill your lungs, and exhale softly, the thought being that you are releasing everything that no longer serves you. With each breath, feel your body lighten. Relax a little more. Allow your shoulders, arms, and hands to release their tension. Let your legs sink deeper into the surface beneath you, and allow your mind to follow the rhythm of your breath, quiet and steady. As you get settled in, let your imagination take you to a peaceful place. Be it a meadow at sunset, a serene beach, or perhaps a forest bathed in the soft light of the moon. Imagine the soft sounds of nature surrounding you, a cool breeze brushing past, and the warmth of calmness filling every part of you. There's nothing to do and nowhere to be. This is your time just to listen, to drift, and let thoughts flow like gentle waves. Tonight's story is here to guide you, to lull your mind and heart at ease. Let the words flow over you like a soft melody, carrying you closer with each passing moment to stillness. You're safe, you're at peace, and you're exactly where you need to be. Now, let the story begin. On a crisp autumn evening, the wandering violinist named Alaric meandered through a dense forest, his boots crunching against a carpet of amber and gold leaves. The trees grew taller and closer together as he ventured deeper, their branches intertwining like fingers shielding a hidden world. Just as the last light of day began to fade, he caught sight of soft, flickering glows, lanterns swaying gently in the breeze. The village was nestled within the forest as if it had grown there alongside the ancient oaks. Its wooden homes, covered in moss and ivy, seemed to hum with life. The air was unusually still, but a faint melody lingered, as if the trees themselves were singing. The villagers, though welcoming, moved with a quiet purpose, their voices low and their eyes watchful. "Traveler," an elderly man called out, his face lined with age, but his voice warm. "You've come to Eridel, a village few find by accident. What brings you here?" Alaric tapped the violin case slung over his shoulder. "I follow where my music takes me," he said with a smile. "And I trade songs for stories." The old man nodded, his gaze sharpening. "Then you'll find no shortage of tales here, but beware, stories have roots as deep as these woods." That night, Alaric performed in the village square. His violin sang a haunting, lilting tune, drawing villagers from their homes. They gathered in silence, their faces softened by the music's spell. When the last note faded, they clapped softly, their smiles tinged with something Alaric couldn't place, relief perhaps, or melancholy. One by one, they approached to share their stories in exchange for Alaric's music. A young woman spoke of glowing lilies that only bloomed under the new moon. A grizzled hunter described hearing whispers in the trees that led him astray. Each tale hinted at a central truth: the heart of the forest, a place whispered to grant eternal harmony. Yet, there was a hesitance in their voices, as if they feared speaking too much. That night, lying under the stars in a small guest cabin, Alaric couldn't shake the feeling that Eredel held secrets far greater than the stories they told him. As days passed, Alaric continued to play his violin in exchange for stories. He performed at dusk, his music mingling with the forest's ambient hum. Each villager's story seemed to add a piece to the puzzle, yet none were complete. One evening, a quiet woman with a silver streak in her hair approached. Her voice was barely above a whisper as she recounted her tale. When I was a child, I wandered too far into the woods. I heard a melody, not of this world, and followed it to a clearing. There stood a great stone altar, surrounded by lilies glowing like moonlight. I reached out to touch the stone, but a shadow fell over me. I ran, and I've never gone back. Alaric noticed a tremor in her hands as she spoke. Did the melody stop when you left? He asked gently. No, she said, her voice heavy with regret. It followed me. Another time, the village's baker, a jovial man with flour-dusted hands, spoke of a night when he dreamt of the forest heart. It called to me, as if it knew my soul. But when I woke, my door was ajar, and muddy footprints led from my bed to the edge of the woods. I never sleep without locking my door now. As Alaric pieced these stories together, he noticed patterns. The forest's heart seemed to allure those who longed for something: peace, closure, or perhaps something they couldn't name. But every tale ended with a warning. Those who sought the heart too closely never returned unchanged. One day, Alaric spotted a young boy lingering at the edge of the square, his wide eyes filled with curiosity. The boy approached hesitantly, clutching a tattered piece of parchment. I heard them talking about you, the boy said. About how you might find it. Find what? Alaric asked, though he suspected the answer. The forest's heart, the boy whispered, thrusting the parchment into his hands. It was a crude map, marked with a single X deep within the woods. I found this near the old mill. No one knows it's mine. Alaric studied the map, his pulse quickening. Yet, something in the boy's nervous demeanor made him pause. Why are you giving this to me? The boy hesitated, then said, Because you play songs like the ones I dream about. Maybe you're supposed to find it. That night, as Alaric studied the map under the flickering glow of a lantern, a strange unease settled over him. The stories, the whispers, and now this map. They were pulling him deeper into Eredel's enigma. The villager's reluctance, he realized, wasn't just fear, it was protection. But what or who were they protecting? At dawn, with the map tucked safely in his coat pocket, Alaric set out on the path it revealed. The forest seemed different now, denser, darker, and more alive. Sunlight filtered through the canopy in fractured beams, casting shifting patterns on the ground. Every step felt both familiar and foreign, as if the forest itself were watching. The trail marked on the map was faint, overgrown with twisting roots and wild ferns. Alaric's violin case, slung securely over his back, felt heavier with each step. The further he ventured, the quieter the forest became. Birdsong faded, the rustle of leaves stilled, and even his own footsteps seemed muffled. As the morning wore on, he reached a clearing described on the map. A ring of towering trees, their bark etched with strange, spiraling patterns. In the center stood a weathered stone well covered in moss. Alaric approached cautiously, his fingers brushing the rough surface. The air around the well felt charged, as if brimming with unspoken energy. He opened his violin case and played a soft melody. The notes floated into the still air, echoing faintly before dissolving. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a faint hum emerged, not from the well, but from the forest itself. It was a low, resonant sound, as if the trees were responding to his song. The hum grew louder, guiding him deeper into the forest. Alaric followed, the map forgotten as he allowed the sound to lead him. Shadows shifted, and the trail became more treacherous, but the hum never faltered. At last, he stumbled into a hidden glade, the place marked on the map. The glade was breathtaking. A circle of glowing lilies surrounded a smooth stone altar, its surface etched with the same spiraling patterns as the trees. The air shimmered faintly, and the hum transformed into a melody, gentle, sorrowful, and hauntingly beautiful. Alaric felt an irresistible urge to play his violin. As his bow touched the strings, the forest seemed to come alive. The trees swayed in unison, their leaves whispering secrets. The music flowing from his violin wasn't his own. It was as though the glade itself was guiding his fingers. The melody grew louder, and the air shimmered more intensely. Suddenly, from the heart of the glade, a figure began to materialize. A spectral woman, with flowing hair and eyes like moonlight. The woman's presence was both ethereal and commanding. Draped in flowing garments that seemed woven from the mist itself, she glided toward Alaric, her gaze piercing yet sorrowful. "You are not like the others," she said, her voice soft yet resonant, as if layered with countless echoes. Alaric lowered his violin, his heart pounding. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice barely audible. "I am Lyria, the guardian of this forest and its heart," she replied. "For centuries, I have kept it hidden from those who would seek it for selfish ends. Tell me, traveler, why have you come?" Alaric hesitated. "I didn't mean to disturb you. I trade melodies for stories, and the villagers spoke of this place, of harmony, of something that calls to them. I wanted to understand." Lyria's expression softened, though sadness lingered in her eyes. "The villagers are bound to this forest, as I am. Long ago, they sought the heart's power to fulfill their desires, but their greed disrupted the balance. In their despair, they relinquished their bond to the heart, entrusting it to me. Now they live in harmony with the forest, but they can never fully forget what they've lost." Alaric frowned. "But they still feel its pull. They speak of dreams and melodies that haunt them. The heart calls to those who carry unresolved longing, Lyria explained. It offers not peace, but reflection, a chance to see oneself unguarded. Few can face what it reveals, and many who sought it were consumed by their own truths. A sudden thought struck Alaric. And my music, it awoke the heart. Lyria nodded. Your melodies stirred the fragments of their desires, bringing them closer to the surface. But it is not too late to restore the balance. Alaric's grip on his violin tightened. What must I do? Lyria's form flickered slightly, her voice growing fainter. Play, traveler. Play a melody that binds their stories together, a song of truth and unity. Only then can the heart's burden be eased. But know this, your own truth will be laid bare as well. As she spoke, the glade dimmed, the glowing lilies paling. The spectral figure began to dissolve, leaving Alaric alone with the altar and his violin. The forest's hum returned, faint but insistent, urging him to act. Trembling, Alaric placed his violin under his chin. He took a deep breath and let the forest's melody guide him once more, ready to face whatever truth awaited. The first notes Alaric played carried the weight of every story he had heard. The sorrow of the quiet woman, the yearning of the baker, the wonder and fear of the young boy. The melody ebbed and flowed, weaving together fragments of the villagers' longing. As the music filled the glade, the air shimmered more intensely, and the glowing lilies pulsed softly in rhythm with the tune. Then the world around him began to shift. The trees faded into shadow, replaced by scenes unfolding like living memories. Alaric saw the village as it once was, a place brimming with life and laughter. The villagers were younger, their faces unlined by worry. At the heart of it all was the stone altar, its surface untouched by moss or age. The vision changed. A procession of villagers stood before the altar, their hands outstretched. They offered tokens, a locket, a carved wooden bird, a book with gilded edges. The altar absorbed their offerings, and in return, the villagers glowed with a radiant harmony, their movements fluid and synchronized as if connected by an unseen force. But soon, the harmony faltered. Faces once serene became strained, their joy twisting into desperation. The visions darkened. Some villagers began to fight over the altar, their voices rising in anger. Others fled into the forest, only to be swallowed by shadows. In their despair, they turned to Lyria, the guardian. She appeared before them, her spectral form bright yet sorrowful. For your peace, the heart must sleep, she declared. You will forget its touch, but not its memory. The villagers knelt as Lyria raised her arms, her light enveloping the altar. The glade dimmed, and the glowing lilies faded, leaving only whispers in the trees. Alaric's music faltered, the bow trembling in his hand as the visions dissolved. He was back in the glade, standing before the altar. Lyria's voice returned, a faint echo in the air. The heart carries their longing, just as the forest carries their stories, she said. You have awakened their truth, And now you must decide. Will you let it slumber again, or will you guide them to face it? Alaric closed his eyes, the weight of the choice pressing on him. He thought of the villagers, their guarded smiles, their quiet sadness. He thought of the boy who had given him the map, his hope tinged with fear. Slowly, he lifted his violin and began to play once more. Alaric's new melody was unlike anything he had ever played before. It was not just a song, but a story of the villagers' longing, their mistakes, and their enduring bond with the forest. His music soared, blending sorrow and joy, regret and hope. The glade responded, the lilies glowing brighter with every note. The villagers' faces flashed in his mind's eye, their stories flowing into his music. He felt their struggles and their yearning as if they were his own. The melody deepened, revealing his own truth. A longing for connection, a fear of being forgotten, a life spent wandering but never belonging. Tears slipped down his cheeks as he played, his music resonating with the glade, the forest, and the unseen heart that pulsed beneath it all. Then, the forest came alive. The glowing lilies burst into a brilliant light, their radiance spreading like ripples through the trees. The hum returned, but now it was harmonious. A rich symphony of voices, winds, and whispers. The villagers began to appear, drawn to the glade by the music. They stood silently at the edge, their faces illuminated by the soft light. As Alaric's song reached its crescendo, the spectral form of Lyria appeared once more, her sorrow replaced by quiet gratitude. "You have given them a chance to heal," she said. "The heart's burden is lighter now, and the balance is restored." The villagers stepped into the glade, their hesitation replaced by awe. One by one, they shared their truths, stories of loss, dreams unfulfilled, and secrets long buried. As they spoke, the forest seemed to listen, the air shimmering with every word. By the time dawn broke, the glade was transformed. The lilies still glowed, but their light was gentler, no longer tinged with longing. The villagers returned to Eredel, their steps lighter and their faces brighter. Alaric stood at the edge of the forest, his violin slung over his shoulder. Lyria's voice echoed faintly one last time. "You have given them a gift, but the forest has given you one as well. You will always carry its harmony in your heart." As he walked away, the trees seemed to hum a final farewell. His journey had changed him, but he would carry the music of the forest wherever he went. His melodies would no longer just be songs. They would be stories of truth, healing, and harmony. And in the hidden heart of the forest, the balance remained, a quiet promise that the forest and its people were forever intertwined.